Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, and that means it's a league change, but instead of a league change, we're actually going to have the same league for a second week in Great League. It's going to be Great League Remix. I'm going to be going over today the top 5 teams that I think are the safest and easiest teams to climb with. In general, that means they're going to be basically ABB comps or balanced comps, because those I think are, like I said, the safest to be climbing with and the most probable to climb with, in my opinion. So those are going to be basically the teams. Let's go ahead and get into these. But first, if you haven't, definitely hit the subscribe button. Helps me out a lot, lets you know when the next video is coming out, and yeah, you'll be able to see the battles and all of that. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first team, a little bit of a different style here. The first team here is going to be Goodra, and then in the back is going to be Registeel and Empoleon. So Goodra has the community move Thunder Punch to give it a lot more coverage, and then Registeel, just a staple of Great League in the last maybe 7 seasons, so almost 2 years of Registeel being basically good enough, and I think right now in PvPoke it is actually ranked 1. And then Empoleon, obviously getting the Steel Wing buff, or yeah, the buff to Steel Wing, helping it out a ton. And we'll go over the 3 points here at the top. This is basically a classic ABB line with Dragon Double Steel. This line not used too much in Great League in past seasons, in this season, and well, not really last season either. I guess this season, kind of starting out with this in Great League. But this has been a staple in Master League for quite a while. I guess before the Necrozma stuff and before Zygarde, it was probably a huge staple for maybe. I feel like I'm just going to say a number of like 6 to 8 seasons as well, and also another staple in Ultra League. Safe swapping Reggie will almost always get you a shield advantage, so the pure bulk of Registeel allows it to get off its moves. And luckily or unluckily for us, Registeel having lock-on means it's going to get to its moves very fast, and those moves are going to be very hard-hitting moves in Focus Blast and Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon also has a 33% chance to reduce the attack of the opposing Mon, which will also give you an advantage there as well. It's always been known that Registeel is a very tough Mon to face, even with its counters. So specifically counter users like Medicham, Annihilate, Poliwrath, they all basically get they're all going to get so destroyed by the Zap Cannon that they are going to have to shield at some point. So, and Registeel can go to the 0 to 1 and you gain that shield advantage. All right, Empoleon with Hydro Cannon becomes an amazing finisher with the extra coverage because of Drill Peck. I mean, basically Empoleon hits really hard. That's kind of what this says. So if you can gain that shield advantage through Registeel or even Goodra with its coverage, then you can come up with the winning scenario there in the back with Empoleon. All right, what are the core breakers to this team? Just ignore that Machamp. That was when I didn't have internet. I made that. And now I'm just going to use it forever. So Registeel in the lead is obviously really tough because it's going to be resisting the Dragon Breaths. Yes, it's going to take neutral from Thunder Punch and Aqua Tail, but going to basically be destroying the Goodra with the Focus Blasts there, and even could bait with the Zap Cannon if you think the Goodra is going to shield. You can't switch into your Reggie because you're always going to be one lock on behind, which means the other Registeel is always going to win, and it's not only just going to win, it's going to win with like 35% more HP still remaining, which is still going to be enough to do stuff to Goodra and one-shot Empoleon. And then obviously you can't switch into Empoleon. It resists Steel Wing. Yes, it gets hit by Hydro Cannon, but it's going to also be one-shotting the Empoleon with Focus Blast or Zap Cannon. And then specifically Shadow Machamp is just dealing out so much damage with those counters that you end up, even if you switch into the Registeel and you get that shield advantage that I was talking about, it can just counter you like basically all the way down. Then it has neutral moves against Goodra and super effective moves against Empoleon. It's really just not a good place to be. Yes, the Goodra can do stuff to it, but it loses in the one shield scenarios. And then even with that last HP remaining, Machamp can still do a lot. Yes, you can do a lot with Goodra in the 2 shields, 2 to 1, I guess. But yeah, it's just going to be giving advantages to the opponents. All right, next team here. It's going to be Empoleon Double Dragon. I'm not going to go over too much here. It's kind of like the same exact thing, except with the opposing coverages in the front. And then Shadow Dragonite. So another ABB line with Steel Double Dragon. Save Swapping Dragonite will almost always give you a shield. And or always pull out the Carbink, which can be the absolute toughest thing for this team in the back line, leaving Goodra with... hopefully leaving Goodra with its coverage abilities to be able to handle whatever's left in the back after Empoleon either farms down whatever came in to KO the Dragonite, and then basically throw Hydro Cannons into things, which even if they're resisted, they're going to do a lot of damage. So basically switch into Dragonite, get some sort of advantage with Dragonite, or pull out the hardest counter, and if you pull out the hardest counter, Empoleon can fully farm that down, have a lot of energy, throwing Hydro Cannons into whatever, and allowing Goodra to hopefully go for the sweep with the back line with all that extra either damage or shields taken by the Empoleon and Dragonite. What are the core breakers? So the core breaker to this team is also Registeel. Although I will say Registeel against Dragonite is not as bad as you would think. Shadow Dragonite just doing a lot of damage, not taking any damage from the lock-ons is really nice. Obviously you're going to get shields taken from you. Yeah, but yeah, Registeel is a hard counter. There are other counters to this team, but they were kind of all really off meta, so I left them out. Specifically, PvPoke really was thinking about Walrein, which I haven't seen a Walrein this season, so yeah, probably not something you really need to worry about. So I will say there are other core breakers out there, but they're not really meta relevant, so I'm going to leave them out here. Alright, Shadow Gligar with Shadow Poliwrath and Jellicent in the back. Now the Jellicent can have Bubble or Hex. Most people are using Hex. I prefer Bubble myself in this meta, but Hex also works. So if you want to go with that, do it. So what are the things about this team? So Shadow Gligar and Shadow Poliwrath are two of the most safest mon in this cup. And if either of them go up energy against things, it can definitely just power through a lot of the counters, even the hard counters to some of these mon. So save swapping Poliwrath in this scenario, if you have an energy advantage with Poliwrath, like I just said, you can definitely power through, at least gaining shield advantages against your tougher matchups. So even like a flying type like Gligar, Icy Wind is double super effective. If you get that 2-counter lead, you're definitely going to get the Icy Wind off against the Gligar, and if it's a Shadow, it's basically going to one-shot, and so you can dictate switch off of that, or you can just take that shield advantage, let them Aerial Ace you, they actually farm you down. You're going to get a little bit of farm with the Gligar, but they're going to be reduced on damage because of the Icy Wind dropping the attack stat by one deviation, whatever you call it. Another thing to note on this team is something like Jellicent is pretty, I won't say RPS because it obviously has really good coverages, but it's kind of like you have to find a good matchup for it, and if they safe swap into something that Jellicent just hard beats, like Poliwrath, you definitely want to take advantage of that, and hopefully even push that advantage into that next matchup that since you are going to win against the Poliwrath no matter what. And something to note here is Shadow Ball is one of the best efficient damage per energy moves out there and hits really hard. So hopefully if you get Jellicent into a good matchup and it hard destroys that, you can even hard destroy the next matchup by either taking shields or just chunking out by a lot because Shadow Ball is so good. So what are the counters? The core breakers. So the core breakers here are going to be Goodra and Mantine, and Goodra is really good against the entire team. Really, Goodra in the lead is going to hit these Aqua Tails against the Gligar. Now, it is going to be very interesting on the baits versus the Dig and the Aerial Ace, but yeah, Goodra obviously going to be good against Poliwrath as well, having the Thunder Punch coverage. Counter's still doing neutral damage, so you can, and Icy Wind obviously doing super effective, so you can fight back there as well. And then Goodra against Jellicent. Again, Jellicent can fight back with the Shadow Balls, but it's going to be taking super effective from the Thunder Punches, and the Dragon Breaths are really going to add up on all three of them on. Mantine, obviously pretty hard counters, super hard counters Poliwrath, pretty hard counters Gligar as well. And it's neutral against Jellicent, so even if you get in that Jellicent matchup, Jellicent is better. against Mantine, and then obviously with Hex would be even better in that matchup if you choose to go the Hex route. But yeah, obviously pretty difficult for the first two Mons, so it's going to be hard for you to switch if they lead into a Mantine. All right, another team here, Shadow Magnezone with Goodra and Mantine. So I put Shadow Gligar Magnezone. Okay, it's Shadow Magnezone. In the right matchups can be an absolute boss, basically hard carrying your team. 1 second. And yeah, we're going to basically having a balanced comp here where if you do have a bad matchup with Magnezone in the front, you're going to want to safe swap into the Goodra. Goodra has, again, I've said this already in the video, all of these extra coverages, so hopefully it can handle whatever ends up coming in against it. And then Mantine kind of hard counters the things that hard counter Shadow Magnezone. So in that case, you have like an ABC comp, which is what balanced is. Yeah, Goodra should be able to take shields with the coverage that it has. Obviously, if they do have something that's like hard countering it, like Carbink, you can absolutely destroy Carbink with the Magnezone. So hopefully you will gain a huge energy advantage on Magnezone, and Shadow Wild Charge is just nuts. It's going to be taking shield from even Shadow Gligar, where it resists Wild Charge. Yeah, you're going to be doing like 60% to it with Wild Charge. So what are the counters? All right, so the counters here are going to be the core breakers, rather. Shadow Steelix and Defense Deoxys. I personally like the Defense Deoxys with the Rock Slide. You've seen that in some of the videos I've had. But they can Thunderbolt is fine as well. Obviously going to be good against the water type specifically. But yeah. So why are these such core breakers? So Steelix, Shadow Steelix, going to be double resisting Wild Charge since it is a ground type Mon, and going to be resisting Mirror Shot because it is also Steel. So really going to have a great matchup against the Magnezone. Going to be hitting them with the Crunches, which are neutral as well. And then if there is no like safe swap, because if you swap into Goodra, it's going to get absolutely mauled by the Dragon Tails from the Shadow Steelix. Yes, the Aqua Tails are super effective, but one is not going to KO, and you do resist the Dragon Breaths. And yeah, that's basically it on that front. And then if you come in with a Mantine, technically it resists the wing attacks. You can get a little bit of energy before switching out to hopefully something that you have a hard counter with on that Steelix team. But even if you don't, Steelix is fine into Mantine, and assuming you don't switch out, I assume that you have another counter to the Magnezone in the back. DD, kind of the same things around here. Going to have a counter which is super effective against the Magnezone, and even though DD is a very low attack stat Mon, very high defense, it is still doing super effective moves to a Shadow Mon, which is going to do a lot. Mantine, if it were to switch in, still going to get hit by these Rock Slides for super effective. And then if they switch into the Goodra, you can just Psycho Boost and Dip, which is going to do like 40% of its HP. So yeah, a lot really hitting it there. Last team I'm going to go over here is going to be Defense Deoxys again with the Rock Slide and Carbink and Shadow Steelix. So again, another ABB team. This is very similar to Hypno Double Dark in that you really don't want the counter users to be in the back. So if you have your what am I trying to say? You're basically ABB with anti-counter in the front and two weak against counter things in the back. Shadow Steelix is going to be your safe swap here. It can definitely win a lot of its bad matchups if you decide to go to the shield scenario. So if you have a super hard counter to DD in the front, you maybe are going to want to hard commit to your Steelix winning that switch advantage. And it can definitely do that with Psychic Fangs, definitely making the opponent's Mon weaker defensively and hitting hard with these Dragon Tails, considering that your Shadow and Dragon Tail is such a hard move anyways. This Carbink is going to have the same difficulties as the Jellicent in the earlier teams. If you can find a spot for it, Carbink, absolute unit of a Mon. But if it gets stuck into a hard counter matchup, obviously it's going to be kind of your downfall as well. So if they do hard swap into something that Carbink is good against, something like, let's say, Sableye, and you can basically fully farm down the Sableye. You can also do the same thing to like Mandibuzz. I don't know that you can fully farm down Mandibuzz, but it really doesn't do anything to you, so you could Rock Slide in the middle, or go to 100 energy, Rock Slide, maybe undercharge that, then Rock Throw it the rest of the way down. You're going to end up almost 100 energy coming into that next matchup, and you can at the very least, throw Moonblast into it, and hopefully that does a lot of damage. So that's going to... Oh, wait. What are the core breakers? So maybe you haven't seen it too much, but Diggersby going to be a big core breaker to this team. Yes, it's taking super effective from the counter damage from Defense Deoxys, but can Defense Deoxys really stay in this matchup? No. It can throw Psycho Boost and dip, but if you dip into like something like Steelix, I guess, you're going to be in a world of trouble. But Rock Slide not hitting is going to be resisted, so what can you really do as this DD into that matchup? I feel like not too much. I feel like 2 Scorching Sands plus these quick attacks are really going to lead to some really bad scenarios for this DD. Also, even lowering its attack, having the chance to lower the attack stat by 1 stage with the Scorching Sands. And then the true weakness of this team is going to be Shadow Quagsire. Definitely on a lot of teams, you're going to see this 5 or 6 times a day if you play 15 sets. At the very least, you're going to see it 5 or 6 times. So it's neutral into DD, and the Rock Slides, I guess, kind of add up. Plus, you can always bait a Psycho Boost and dip and end up and not dip. But you definitely don't want to see Quagsire in the back. These 2 mon are super weak to Quagsire. At the very least, Steelix can do a lot of neutral damage. And in the matchup, if Force 2 can go to the 2 shields, 1 Aqua Tail is not going to KO. But if you but it gets to its Aqua Tail so fast, it's going to be really rough. But at least you have chances to deal with it with DD, whereas I feel like with Diggersby, you don't have too much that can. It just feels like you're going to auto lose if you see a Diggersby. So not a mon that I've seen too much, but maybe worth trying, to be honest. Yeah, it is super weak against Mantine and the Waters, weak against Mantine, Poliwrath, Quagsire, but now I'm thinking maybe I want to try a Diggersby team, but we'll see what comes up. So those are my 5 safest teams for climbing in Remix Cup. So hopefully that helps you out if you liked this video. I know we changed up a lot of stuff, so definitely let me know if you like the format of this. Maybe I can do my best teams format like this from now on. We're always trying to improve here on the channel, so yeah, if you like the video, hit the like button, and definitely let me know in the comments if you like this style for the best teams video. And then if you haven't, hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video, and if you want to continue to support me, definitely click that subscribe button. You'll see any content coming out, and if you want another video on this same league for some more tips and tricks to other teams, check that video out right there, and I'll see you in the next one.